Hello and welcome back to another Space Engineers showcase video. In today's video, I'm once again taking a look at one of your designs that you have linked me in the comment section of one of my videos. And if you wish to see something of yours shown on this channel, just leave me the Steam Workshop link somewhere and I'll eventually get round to it. But for today, we are looking at another large block ship, and this one is called the EX2 Promenade, which is this lovely thing right here. So this is an exploration vessel that features hydrogen thrusters and everything you need to survive in survival mode. You can see on the side there we do have some auction farms to make sure our tanks are nice and filled while we're on an adventure, and we do have a nice little interior that features some showers, some toilets and a place to sleep. Pressing F10 and finding it in the spawn menu, there it is. This thing is 603 large blocks using the decorative block number 1, Warfare 1, decorative block number 2 and Wasteland DLC packs. It features no mods and it uses no scripts, but there is a programmable block on here for you to use if you want to. And we can see there everything about the ship is written on the Steam Workshop page, and it says up here you can get to 0 to 100 in 3 seconds flat. And we'll try that out a bit later. So we'll give this a thumbs up, we'll move all the way around to the very front, we'll have a quick look around the outside, then we'll have a quick look at the interior. Then we'll do a proper thruster test where I'll actually time it to see how long it takes to actually reach 100 meters per second, and then we'll probably find an asteroid and crash it into that. So at the very front, this is what we get. We've got some lovely orange blocks that make up the main body of this ship, and we can see a lovely glass panel with a cockpit sitting right behind it. That cockpit is how we're going to drive this thing around, and we don't have many controls on it, just a very weird one involving hinges. Just below that, we then got a spotlight to light up the darkness. Then as we were to move around the side here, what we're going to see is some yellow blocks and then some orangey glamour skin blocks, which I do absolutely adore. One of my favourite skins in this game. Yes, we can see right there the window that belongs to our bed block. We can see the toilet block sitting right next to it over there. And as we continue along, we're going to see the first of many hydrogen thrusters to push this thing around. Now coming around over to here, we do have a rather odd setup. So we've got our traditional forwards and our sides, but then we've got these ones on hinges. These ones don't actually function at all unless you turn them on, and then even then, they're not going to do anything. So if you do want to use these two thrusters on hinges, you will need to install one of Whip's subgrid controllers for the thrusters, but I'll go through that a bit later. As we continue around the side here, what we'll see is a connector on the very bottom, 2 auction farms, and we can see a jump drive hidden away inside there. Just make sure we can jump a great distance and perhaps do some long distance trading. Yes, as we continue along towards the back there, even more glamour skin blocks, and we can see all of our hydrogen tanks to store all of our precious hydrogen sticking out the back there. Make sure we can go a nice long distance without refueling. If I put my light on and continue around towards the back, we'll see even more small hydrogen thrusters. Then coming towards the very back here, we've got 3 large hydrogen thrusters and an exhaust block shooting out some smoke. Then we were to come all the way through in the middle, we'll see a bunch of gyroscopes get some nice control out of this, a antenna to make sure we can always find it. And if we were to continue all the way along underneath this, what we're going to see is a bunch of O2H2 generators to make sure we can top up our tanks in an emergency. And that'll be these ones all the way over here. Yes, if we come all the way up and above and start to look down, we'll see even more gyroscopes for our control, even more thrusters, the return of our yellowy and glamour skin blocks, and a bunch of hydrogen engines to make sure we're nice and powered, and a ore detector so we can go out and find some precious resources to collect and maybe trade. Just in front of our ore detector we've got a bunch of catwalks, and this is going to be our primary way in and out. So we just go through this doorway, we've got a sensor that will open up that one in the distance and close this one behind us. Then we need to make a little hop to get over that lip. We'll come back to that a bit later. If you were to continue towards the front, there's our angled thrusters on the side there. We get a lovely window to peer down into our living quarters that leads eventually to our cockpit. And at the very front where I'm standing, we can now peer down at the cockpit, and there we go. So if we come down past our spotlight all the way to the very bottom, we've got ourselves a beacon, which is very handy. We can see some lovely black blocks which make up the bottom of this ship. There's some more thrusters angled on hinges, a connector to dock this thing up, a landing gear to make sure we snap down on the grid and don't randomly float off into the distance. And then towards the back there are our hydrogen tanks once again, and that'll take us to the very back. And there we go, that is a very brief look around the outside, and it does look fantastic with how it's all been set up, and I am a sucker for the glamour skin blocks. So what we can do now is grab hold of my character, and we'll come and walk all the way towards the back, round to here. We'll then just go and drop down. You probably just heard the door open up, and yes, that is a little bit of a problem because the sensor does seem to detect stuff on top, but it's not too much of a problem at the end of the day. Yes, we're just going to walk in here, the sensor will trigger, open up that doorway, and now that one's closed behind us. Over here we do have a small little lip, which is a bit of a problem, but you can't really get on it unless you use your jetpack. So there we go. It's kind of just a bit of a fault with this block being slightly raised up compared to everything else, but it's not too much of a problem at the end of the day. Walking through here, we've got some lovely lights in our fancy passage blocks that come all the way down onto some steps, and now we're on the main living quarter areas. So if we were to come towards the cockpit at the very front for another little passage, we've then got some armor lockers on the side. Turning around and then coming up the steps, what we're going to find is our little living area with our toilets on one side, our shower. We then got another armory locker, and then behind us is our bed to go to sleep on, and we've got a lovely little safety railing so we can get down to our cockpit if we need to. So getting into the cockpit, bringing up the HUD, the only option we have is for our hinges. Now we've got a hinge on and off, but when we press it, nothing is going to happen. Now I'm not sure if this is a mistake or intended, but what we're doing here is just switching the lock. But it doesn't seem like it has enough force behind it to actually move those thrusters towards the front. But if we do start fiddling with it, now this is going to get a bit wonky. You can see there we've got this unlocked, we've got our velocity at -30, but we don't have enough torque in order to make it move. So we're just going to follow that all the way up like so. And now it's going to start moving, but the whole ship is going to start moving along with it. So yes, I'm not too sure what's going on with this, so we'll simply ignore it for the moment. In fact, I'll just go and switch that all the way back down. So there we go, we'll just leave them like that for the moment. But if you did want to use those thrusters, you can always come into here and actually switch them on. They're quite easy to find, because they're going to be these different coloured ones at the top there. We can switch them on, but as you see there, they will not help out with the other thrusters, because we will need to use a script in order to get them to function. So if you come into here, find that lone programmable block, which is on the floor. I do believe I did miss that out, so we'll go back to that in a second. We can always come into here, we can find the whip subgrid thrust controls right here. We can add that in, and we can be on our way. But for the moment, for stability, we will just get rid of this one and paste in a new one, so those thrusters are back to where they were at the start. But that's that if you want it. But yes, the programmable block is right here behind the stairs where we just came in, and we can see a gravity generator to make sure we don't just float away when we jump. We also have an air vent to make sure we don't suffocate. And yes, that is basically it for the inside. Alright, so here we are in a brand new one. The hinges, as you can see at the very front, are back to their default position. We'll switch them off because we do not need them. So what we're going to do is a proper thruster test to see how fast this thing can go. Now, bearing in mind, I do have the Deadly Re-entry mod, which does fiddle with the maximum speed, so we are going to count up to 100 meters per second. So moving forwards, this is what we get. We got some fantastic speed with this, and it takes almost exactly 3 seconds in order for it to reach 100 meters per second, which is what the creator has listed on the workshop page. Coming to a stop, or even just reversing to 100 meters per second, is going to take roughly 13 seconds, which is a hell of a lot slower, but you could always do a 180 with the mouse and boost forwards to make it a bit quicker. If we were to move left or right, they're going to be both the same. It takes roughly 7 seconds to get to 100 meters per second, and of course it'll take 7 seconds to stop, because we've got equal distribution on the left and right. If you were to move up, this is going to take roughly 6 seconds to reach 100 meters per second. And then if we were to start moving down, what we're going to get is 9 seconds to reach that maximum speed. So we do have a bit of wonkiness on the up and down, but it's not too much of a problem. We're not really going to be moving down unless we're in space. But as for the mouse controls, this is what we get. We've got a little bit of weight on here. It's not too much, but it's generally what I prefer to when it comes to a larger ship. So we still got some nice control with this. We can still do a 180 and boost forwards if we are in an emergency, but it still has enough weight on there to feel meaty and not too floaty. But as for that is basically it for what the EX2 Promenade has to offer. It's a fantastic looking ship, and it's got some nice stuff on here and everything you need to survive in survival mode. We do have a basic refinery, we do have a assembler, and of course we do have a survival kit inside here. So that's what I meant by great for survival mode. because we are all set up to go out, mine and refine stuff, and perhaps trade it to a trade station. And as for everything else, apart from lacking any form of weapons, which we don't always need, sometimes you just want a peaceful experience exploring the galaxy, that is completely fine with me. So what we're going to do now is charge along towards that asteroid at 150 meters per second. This is going to be one hell of a crash thanks to the increased speed limit, and hopefully we'll do some great destruction to this. So as per usual, there'll be a link to it in the description below if you do wish to download and play around with it yourself. I highly recommend you do because it is a lovely little ship. And here we go. Oh, that's a great crash. Did the whole thing get destroyed? No. Actually, yes. The whole thing got destroyed bar this thruster and the back there. I don't think we can even salvage this. No, we're missing the right hand thrusters. So we did basically completely destroy the ship. That is some fantastic stuff with that. As I was saying, there'll be a link to it in the description below if you do wish to download and play around with it yourself. I highly recommend you do, and I'll be back with another video some point soon. Bye bye.